Let's start talking technical. In the last section, we spoke a little bit about the goal or the plan that we were going to use to get familiar with Redux. First, we're going to get some starter application, then go into React, blah, 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 somewhere along the line, Redux. In this section, I want to talk a little bit about step one, our tooling, or this sample application that we're going to put together by using some boilerplate project. I'm going to bring up a diagram on the screen here, and we're going to look at exactly what's going to go on with this first application that we're about to make. So when we download this starter application in the next section, very shortly, we're going to get kind of a skeleton of a project. Something that just allows us to start writing React code without really having to know what's going on behind the scenes. In other words, we're going to start writing React and we're going to see it pop open in the browser as actual content, but we're not really going to have to deal with any of the plumbing of compiling any code or transpiling anything or blah, 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 all these crazy terms. Nonetheless, I want you to have an idea of at least somewhat what's going on behind the scenes. In a future section, we're going to put together our own boilerplate project, but for now, we're going to start nice and easy. So let's take a look at this diagram. On the left-hand side, we've got a box that represents a bunch of project files. So we will be working on a couple files like, say, component1.js, component2.js, and so on. We also have libraries like React.js and Redux.js. So these are actual JavaScript files. They're JavaScript files that are written in ES6, or colloquially ES 2016, which is just a slightly different syntax of JavaScript. Now, no browser out there, or no browser really has complete support for ES6 just yet, and so even though we're writing ES6 code, we can't actually run it in the browser. If you're not familiar with ES6 or ES 2016, don't sweat it. We're going to talk at great length about what the differences are and what the difference between ES6 and ES5, which is vanilla JavaScript, is. Just keep in mind for right now that it's slightly different JavaScript. So the code that we're going to be writing inside of the sample project can't actually be ran inside the browser at all. We have to first go through a tooling or transpile step. To transpile our code, we're going to be using a tool called Webpack, and it's going to be backed by another library called Babel, or Babel.js. The purpose of Webpack and Babel is to take this ES6 code that we're writing, this code that can't be ran in the browser, and to transpile it into something that can be ran into the browser. After Webpack and Babel get through, it's going to spit out a single file called application.js or main.js or app.js. The name doesn't really matter, but basically it's going to spit out a single file and says, hey, here's your complete application. Here's all that sample code that you were just writing, all inside of one JavaScript file, and it can be safely ran inside of a browser. So once we run our tooling and it transpiles all of our code, we're going to be running, or we're going to end up with a single JavaScript file that we can safely run inside of our browser. Again, we'll be putting together our own tooling pipeline here in a future section, but for right now, just know that as we work on this first project, we're writing some code, it's going to get transpiled, and then it's going to be ran inside of our browser. So with no further ado, let's continue in the next section where we'll install our boilerplate application.